How's it going? I hope you're having a good day, and we're gonna get started by just heading over into the player script. And I've done some experimentation, so we're gonna change friction from 250 to 260. And then we're gonna change a bit of this code down here. We're gonna change this 0 into 10, this into 10. We're gonna go small than or equal to here, bigger than or equal to here. And that's going to make the friction work a bit better. If we run the game, it feels better. We have a little bit of time before we stop heading forwards, but it's not too much. If we jump, sometimes we're jumping higher than what we normally jump, and well, we don't want that. The reason why this is happening, in order to figure it out, I'm just going to show you some bug testing that I did, is that if we go into, I'm going to declare a new variable of our jump motion applied times is equal to 0. And then we go down to when we first jump, and we have it that jump motion applied times is equal to 0. And then whenever we jump motion applied times plus equals 1, print jump motion applied times. So if we run the game, let's move this up a bit, and if we have a look at what's going to happen in the output, we get 1, 2, 3. So then our maximum here is it applies a total of 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we get 1, 2, 3, 4. And the reason because this is happening is because we're using a timer to have the player jump. Sometimes it is being finished halfway through a frame, so then sometimes it gets called only 3 times, this function right here, and sometimes it gets called 4 times. And you might be thinking, well then why did we use a timer to begin with? And the answer to that is because I had this in another game and it worked fine, and well, it's not working in this game for some reason. So we're just going to go ahead and delete this timer, and we're going to change it, the script, so that if jump motion applied times is bigger than 0, and then we're actually just going to change this variable. I'm going to use a little function over here. So if we go up to here, next to the file, there's a search. You click on that, then you can scroll down to replace. And then this first thing here is what we're looking for. So if we put in jump motion applied times, then it's going to highlight all of our jump motion applied times. And then what we can do is we can go down here and do what we want to replace it to. So we'll say jump guys times, and then we're just going to click replace all. So then now we're just going to change this to minus equals 1 and change this into 5. Then if we run the game, press space, there's an error. Attempt to call function start. I forgot to remove the jump time. We're just going to delete that. And then we're just going to delete our onReady variable jump time as well. Now we run it, and we can press jump. We get quite a bit of height now, because it's more consistent. But as you can see, we're not having different heights with the jump. It's always being the same height. So I'm just going to lower this to 4, see how high that goes. I think this is good because this is just about 2 of these blocks. And so then something else you can do is, rather than have this jump guys times, you can change it to I'll just comment this out. You can do Control K after selecting something. That'll toggle it between commenting. And then we'll also comment this, and we'll just say motion.y minus equals jump power times 4 times delta. And then what you could do is actually change jump power into a higher number so you don't need this times 4. Then you run it, and it's pretty much the same thing, but I like having it so that it applies it a little bit over time rather than all at once. So I just spammed Control Z there to get things back to how they were. So that's the jumping, and then now what we're going to want to do is animate the player. So we're going to add a node, you're going to look up animation, then you're going to select this animation player here, create, and we're going to move it right under the player mask. Actually, we'll put it above the player body. And then we're going to go new animation, then we're going to have default, and we're going to head over to our player body, and we're going to key this frame. I'm going to change the duration down here to 0.1, and then let me just explain some of what the animation player does. Basically, we've got our animation here. This helps us create all our animations. You'll mostly be using new, duplicate, rename, and remove, which will affect whatever animation you currently selected, in this case default. Then we've got this right here, autoplay on load, which will make it that this animation will automatically play as soon as the animation player is loaded. Then we've got this over here, animation looping. If you turn it on, then as you can see here, it goes back to the start as soon as it finishes. If we turn it off, then it's just going to stop once it reaches the end. And then we've got our tracks down here, which will be for all of our things that we key, and we can key things whatever has, well, this key symbol right next to it. And the animation player can have linear changing values. So I'm going to use the example by just having us key our character's scale from 0.1, or from 1.1 to 2.2, then we key that as well. Then if we drag this bar, which is, well, our time, then you can see in between these change to, and that's not linear, but then down here we can have it so that it can snap, as long as this is blue it's snapping, to whatever we put down here. So if we put 0.001, then we can control and mouse wheel forward to zoom in, mouse wheel backwards to zoom out, and then we can move it along here. As you can see, the player is gradually getting bigger over time. If we were to play it, it just gets bigger really smoothly. Then what these different things do is we can play it backwards from the end, or we can select somewhere and play it backwards from there, play it forwards from the beginning, or we can select somewhere, play it forwards from where we are. And there's also the stop, which if we're playing, it'll just stop the animation where it is. So I'm just gonna go to this garbage can button over here at the end of the scale. I'm gonna delete that, and we're gonna reset our scale to 1:1. And now we are going to create the walking animation. Well, we won't name it walking animation, we'll just name it walking. So now we head over to our body. Oh, page frame's not on properly. Yes, one of them aren't. Just go reset everything and then count it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I thought it was on 7, 7. Either way, it appears to be working now. So we're gonna head over to frame, what is it, 4 or? Let's start with 3, and then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna drag it forward to 0.1. We're gonna click the up arrow here, and then we're gonna click this key button again, and as you can see, it already moves ahead to 0.2 and to the next frame. So then we can just click this again, and again, and again, and again, again, and again. 0.8 is where you're going to want to start, and the last frame will be 10. So then if we change the duration of this to 0.8, I'm going to set it to looping. Then also going to go back to our default animation, change that to autoplay, go back to walking, and I'm just going to play it. And from the seams of things, one of the frames is off, and that's probably this one right here. In one of the frames, it seems like the player's eye is not where it should be. 0.1, we'll delete that. I just want to see where this frame ends and this frame starts. Yeah, we're just going to drag all these backwards. Change the duration to 0.7 and run it. I'm pretty sure this frame is also not to be in here. So we're going to drag all these back again. 0.6. Run it. It seems like it's repeating itself. Kinda. Okay, so now we've got our basic walking animation. And let me just delete this key because it looks a little off. I'm going to change duration to 0.5. I think, are we playing to the same frame? It looks like it. We're going to delete this first key. We're just going to Control Z till we get this 10 value back. We're going to delete this one. Move everything backwards. Change the duration to 0.5. Play. And that is a lot better. Yep. Okay. And then now we're going to go another new animation. We name this Ascend, and we are just going to go up to frame 11 and key that in. We'll change it to 0.1 as a duration. It's not going to be looping. Then we're going to make a new animation, Descend, change its duration to 0.1, go up a frame to 12, key that in, and that's all we need now. We'll make more later. So now we're just going to go back into our player script, and we're going to go in between the variables and onReady variables. We're going to create another onReady variable, animation player is equal to money animation player, and onReady variable sprite, actually mask sprite equal to money.player mask. I think I forgot to delete this when I was testing. And what this basically does is when we press a button, it's going to change our motion. And I'm just going to boost this up to 10. And this just makes it so that when we are turning an opposite direction, it happens faster. I think what I'm going to do though is make it so that motion.x is equal to 0 and motion.x is equal to 0. Change this back to 5. Then what that does is that any amount of speed we're going, we click the other button, we can turn around. And this makes for some really tight movement, which, well, you know, you generally want tight movement in a platformer. So then what we're also going to do is make it that sprite flip, oh wait, sorry, mask sprite flip h is equal to true. Mask sprite flip h is equal to false. So if you run it, then when we go left and right, our player will look in that direction. And I think we should also add in the already variable body sprite is equal to money.player body. And we're going to make it that flip as well. Generally in Godot, what you do in order to organize things is you have two spaces in between the functions. Something that I like to do is group up functions that are similar to each other and then have free spaces in between these groups. So for the moment I want the physics process to be on its own, and then all of these that are kind of like sub parts of the physics process that gets called during it, I want them to be in a group, but separate from the physics process. And then I am also going to go down here, and right here I'm going to go animate, and so this will be called every frame. And then I'm going to create a new function, func animate, and then if on ground, I'm going to go dead is equal to false, then match state, basic, pass, ledge, hanging, pass, and go back to basic. If on ground is equal to true, and we want the if motion dot x is equal to 0, and animation player dot play default else animation player dot play walking. Then we'll also go down here and I'll do else if motion dot y is bigger than or equal to 0, animation player dot play descend else animation player dot play ascend. So now we've got our 4 animations in there, and if we run the game, have a look at what happens. Our player will have their legs a bit back towards them when they're going up. They'll have them in front of them when they start to fall down. Then walking, it looks insanely slow, so we're gonna have to up that speed on the animation player. But everything is working. So I'm going to go back to the animation player. Just going to click on a sprite here so I can see what's in front. And going to head over to walking. Change this time to 0.05 for now. It's going to drag everything so that they're 1 frame apart. Change the duration to 0.25 and play it. Can't really tell from here whether that's going to look good or not, so I'm just going to test it. It looks okay. If state is equal to basic and on ground is equal to true, and motion.x is expression mark equal to 0. And what this expression mark means is not, so as long as motion.x is not equal to 0, then we're just going to pass for now, then put if dead is equal to false and now what we're going to do is make it so that animation player dot playback speed is equal to motion.x divided by max speed. Else animation player dot playback speed is equal to 1, and playback speed is its time that the animation player plays. So since it's at 1, we're going through it in 0.25 seconds, but if we were to change it to 2, we would go through it in 0.125 seconds. So it's like how fast the animation player is playing. And this mathing right here is we're taking our motion.x and dividing it by our max speed. And what we're gonna do is something else I forgot to do. But basically what this does is returns value between 0 and 1 because our motion.x is equal to either 0 and it can go up to our max speed. And if we divide our max speed by our max speed, we get 1, and anything between will be a decimal. So what I forgot to do is we're going to create a temporary variable and call it playback speed will be equal to motion.x divided by max speed, because then if we end up having a negative motion, then we're going to have a negative playback speed, and well, we don't want that. So I'm going to say if playback speed is smaller than 0, that way we know it's negative, playback speed times equals -1, then it becomes positive. Set this equal to playback speed. So now if we run the game, we'll start off really slow and start to build up stuff. So the walking animation is still too slow. We're gonna need to edit that. Also, I think we should probably lower our jump height. So change jump power to 900 Then go back into the animation player and change this to 0. Actually, instead of doing this, I'm just going to make it that our acceleration is higher. So what's our max speed now? 100. We're going to change our acceleration to 110. Let's actually change our max speed to 90. We'll change this to 100. So now it takes a bit for our player to get the speed that they need in order to start walking normally. And that's not good, you know, like we're just kind of sliding forward and we don't want that. So what we're going to do is go back into here and I'm going to say after we make sure it's positive, playback speed plus equals 0.2, and then playback speed is equal to clamp playback speed 0 and 1 has its maximum value. So then we're gonna have like a little bit where we just kinda, our legs move slower and they will soon get faster. I still think that the animation for this is a little slow. So we're just gonna change it all the way down to 0.35, see how that looks. And then you don't have to change it here if you think it's a fine speed. But, well, I don't like the speed that it's playing at, so I'm changing it. That's a little fast. 0.4, change this to 0.25. Drag these back. 0.2. And I think that this isn't bad for a like max speed. We would be running at this speed. Okay, it's kind of hard to get a good look at this in here, so we're gonna head over to our level 1. Then we're just gonna erase these bottom tiles, and we're gonna paint the screen like this. Put back over here. And that's good. Run the game. And then yeah, we start to pick up speed after a bit. And it looks pretty good. Well, not really the pixel art animation I did, but if it was good, it would look pretty good. So now what we're going to do is just open our assets folder here, and you're going to want to drag in the walking dust into it. You just got to have the effects selected, and then you drag it, drop. Then we're going to re-import this without a filter. Then what we're going to do is going to click this plus button and make a new scene. And we're going to make a 2D scene. Call this walking dust scene. Then we're going to add a sprite. And then we are going to also add an animation player. In this sprite, we're just going to drag in our walking dust texture in here. And we're going to set the H frames to 4. Then now, in our animation player, we're going to make the ready function, which is going to autoplay. And we're going to save this under scenes. Actually, let me make more folders in the scenes. So we're going to make our effects folder, our enemies folder, and our attacks folder. It's the same stuff we have in the assets now. And I'm just gonna close all these, save, then I'm gonna save this in the effects folder as walking dust. Now we want to animate it, and we're just gonna keyframe 0 and go 0.05, and then we're gonna up the frame, key, change the animation length to 0.2, and now if we play it, we get a little dust that kind of moves, and we are just going to actually modulate this dust with the alpha to be at 100. Now we're going to add a new script to our walking dust. We're going to delete all this. We're going to go func creation, because whenever this gets added to a scene, this creation function is going to be called, and I'll explain more why it gets called later on. So then in our creation function, we're going to want to pass our, on the left side, we're going to want to pass that variable, and this is going to be a Boolean variable. So then if on left side is equal to true, pass, else, pass, under the our sprite is equal to money.sprite. Then we're gonna say sprite.flipH is equal to false, else sprite.flipH is equal to true. And if we go to offset here, then flip H, yeah, it actually works out fine, I think. Oh, nope, does not. Gotta go to frame 0, flip H, what does it? I think it works fine. So it's still symmetrical if we flip the sprite H. But what we are going to do is make it so that this bottom part right here is right on this red line, the 0 horizontal line. And then that's it for this. So then we're going to go into the player, and we are going to make a constant. And a constant is a variable that cannot be changed. So this constant, we're going to call it walking dust, and it's practice to have all constants spelled in all capitals. So then I'm going to set it equal to preload, then just type in walking dust, and you want walking dust.tscn. This means it's a scene that we are preloading. And what preload does is, well, it preloads something to be ready for when we are loading it. That way it doesn't take as much time if we were to just load it when we need it. Because this is going to be used a lot, we want it to be preloaded. If you were going to have something that's only really created once every now and again, you might want to just load it when the time comes. So we're going to go down into our update left-right motion, and we're going to create a new timer. I'm just making a crazy amount of spelling mistakes, and we're going to say dust create delay. I'll change this to walk dust to create delay. Make it one shot, 0.2, and we're going to go into node over here after the inspector, and we're going to double click this timeout, then click connect. And what we've just done is we've created a signal from this timer into the script of our player. So then the signal is the timeout signal. So when the timer reaches 0 from its wait time, it is going to call this signal, which we'll call this function in script. And we are just going to move this higher up. We want it to be 3 indents apart because this is a different section. This will be our timer timeout section. And we are just going to have to create a temporary variable and call this walking dust. I'm going to set it equal to walking dust dot instance. This dot instance is important, and you may forget it from time to time, but the instance makes it an instance of the walking dust scene and not the actual scene. And if it's not instanced, then we can't recreate it in this scene properly. So then I'm going to say walking dust dot global position is equal to self dot global position. So the global position is where we are in our highest parent node, and at the moment it's level 1. So then right now in level 1 we're at about 50x and like 40 y. But then this will change whenever we move. So then we're gonna go walking. Oh, I forgot something. So in between these two, we're gonna go get parent dot add child walking dust. And the reason we are getting our parent to add the child of walking dust, and add child is going to add a duplicate of our walking dust scene, which we can do because we instanced it into a variable. But the reason we're getting our parent is because if we get our parent to add the child, then it's not our child. And something that you'll notice is that although we've got the player here, we've got all these other nodes, and well, these sprites are following where our player is going. We're not also updating where these sprites are. So in order to make it that these walking dust childs won't follow the player, we get the parent to add them, so that way they stay still even when our player is still moving. And then what we are going to do, I put in a breakpoint there somehow again. I'm going to go if on ground and dead is equal, if on ground is equal to false and dead is equal to false. I'm just going to select all these and click tab to move them forward. I'm also going to go walking dust dot creation, and we're going to put in our sprite dot flip h here. Oh, our mask sprite dot flip h. And we're not starting this timer yet though. So what we're gonna do is in here, if motion.x is not equal to 0, and I haven't even declared the timer yet. So we're gonna go enter twice here, already for walk dust create delay is equal to money dot walk dust create delay. Scroll down and walk dust create delay dot is stopped. Let me just close this. Then we're going to make walk dust create delay dot start. This checks that if we're moving and the timer is not already running, we're going to start it. If we don't check for this, then we're just going to start the timer again and again, and it will never stop. So now, if we run this, we should get these, but we're not. So I'm just going to test if this is being called. Print hi. Run the game. Move. We are getting these highs being printed. Just probably because I put on ground is equal to false instead of on ground is equal to true. So now we run the game and we have these, but they are spawning and they aren't deleting themselves when they're done, and they're spawning at the wrong spot. And the reason because of this is because our player global position is right here at the center, at the top half of our sprite. So then if we just grab our animation, no, collision shape 2D, put it to visible. Oh, never mind, I'm gonna grab our player mask. If we move this down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then we're at the bottom of our feet. So then what we want to do is equal to self.global position plus vector 2, 0, 5. And this will put it at our feet. Then it's also not deleting itself, so what we're going to want to do is head back to our walking dust, go into the animation player, and what we're going to do is add a track, and it's going to be a call method track. And using this, we can actually call functions. And so we're going to select our walking dust, because that way it's calling a function of the walking dust. We're going to go to the end, we're going to right click, insert key, type in Q, and we're going to use void Q3. And what that does is it deletes it. Because we don't just want to turn it invisible, because that way whenever we move there's going to be more and more created and it's going to stack up, and that's going to be quite unoptimized. So now if we run the game and walk, you'll see that we get little bits of dust that are created behind the player as we walk. However, I think that we could use more at a time. So we change this to 0.1. Start walking around, get a lot more. Oh, it's a bit much now. 0.15. Then I'm also going to head back into walking dust and change the sprites, self-modulate, down to 50 for visibility, or alpha. So now I like this for walking. One problem though is that if we stop moving, then it's still creating that, so we're going to fix that. But if you like it to be created more or less often, feel free to change this timing. So what we're also going to do is check if and input dot is action pressed left. Actually, we'll just control X this, so it deletes and copies. We'll control it there, change this and to an if, put a colon here, tab this forward, and go or input dot is action pressed right. Because if we put the ORs, what they do is they create a new thing. So if you were to have and that is equal to false with this left and then go OR, it's gonna be if our left button is pressed and we're not dead, but this is just gonna be if our right button is pressed. So if you have ORs and ands in the same script, it is normally best to separate them, so then all the conditions that need to be met, you put them in one if statement, and the next you put the ones that are variable. So now, we run the game, start moving, we release, we're not going to be making them anymore. But because of our friction, we're still moving a bit, so then instead of having this, we might want to go if motion.x is not equal to 0. And then you could move this back over to there. And what that would do is create a better effect, but can still get stuff that is overlapping our player a bit from time to time. So it's up to you whether you want to do that. I'm gonna have it with the if one of our movement buttons is pressed though. And also, if we jump, you'll realize that we're not creating these, so it's only happening on the ground, which is good. So then, now that we have the walking dust done, what we're gonna do is add in some jumping and landing dust. So we're just gonna click on our effects folder, then we're gonna drag in the jump and land dust, and then we gotta re-import them without a filter on. And now we're going to create another 2D scene, and we are going to name this the jump land dust. And then we're gonna add 2 sprites. And just Control D and that'll duplicate it. Then we'll name this land sprite. And here we have jump sprite. Then I'm gonna add an animation player. And well, we're gonna drag in the textures for the jump and land sprite, and this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sprite frames. Oh, I don't know why I put in 5. Yep, seems good. Yeah, we can save this under scenes, effects, and jump land dust. Then land sprite, I'm gonna drag in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as well. And we're just gonna move these upwards, and then we're gonna have to have a negative 0.5 transform on them since they're not even. And we're gonna turn both of them to invisible. Then we're gonna add a script. And we are just going to add in the func creation script, and we're gonna pass in the is jump dust variable. That'll be a Boolean variable, so it'll either be true or false. I'm gonna go money.jumpSprite.visible is equal to false. Money.landSprite.visible is equal to false. And I'm gonna know if is jump dust. Just put in money.animation player for now because we gotta make the animations. So we're gonna go jump dust as our first animation. Just gonna head in here. We're gonna go into visibility, put it on, key that, and then we're also gonna key the frames. And this time we're gonna go up 0.6. Let's see how that looks. Probably too slow. Yep, and change that down to 0.5. We'll see 0.05. Just drag them back into place. Animation's now 0.3 seconds. Play it, and I think that's good. What did we make our walking dust sprites self-modulated again? 50. So we're going to want to do the same thing with the jump and land sprite. Let's change that to 50. And that to 50. And now we're just going to go new animation and land dust. What did I accidentally put the land dust here? No, just jump. Okay. So we're going to have the same duration and snapping. Just going to make this visible, jump sprite invisible, key that it's visible, and then key the frames. Play it, looks good. and we can leave both of them visible, and that's it for this scene. So now we gotta make a variable was on ground. So I'm gonna go next to on ground. Oh wait, we already have was on ground. That's good. So now what we're gonna do is right after animate, we're gonna go was on ground is equal to on ground. I'm gonna double tap enter here, then go if was on ground is equal to true and on ground is equal to false, pass. So basically what we're trying to do here is that every frame at the end of our physics process, we're making sure that was on ground is equal to whatever on ground is equal to. So then what happens is if we call update on ground and we were on the ground, so then was on ground would be equal to true, but then now we're not on ground. Was on ground will still be equal to true until this line is called. However, on ground will be equal to false, and this way we can check if we have just left the ground or just landed on the ground. So we're gonna make another constant up at the top. Const jump land dust is equal to preload jump land dust dot tscn. Again, important that it's tscn. And we're going to do pretty much the same thing we did in our timer walk dust create delay timeouts. So we're going to go var jump land dust is equal to jump land dust dot instance get parent dot add child jump land dust jump land dust dot global position is equal to self dot global position plus vector 2. I'm just gonna leave this empty for now because I'm not sure how we're gonna need to offset it, and then we'll go jump land dust dot creation true because we check if it's jumping dust. Oh yeah, and we gotta set the animation player to do something. So animation player dot play jump dust else money animation player dot play land dust. Oh yeah, and then also we need to make it so that it queues free at the end. So we'll put in a call function track, insert a queue free method on land dust, and do the same with jump dust. So now we're going to go back to the player, and well, I guess we can just test if this works. And it does, but it is at the wrong position. So we're going to go into the player, collision shape 2D I'll use. So now global position is here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we need an offset of +5, because remember Godot's Y is reversed. And then now it should be at the right position. Yeah, so it's a little above though. So, and that's because by the time this is called, we are already jumping. So our position is a little higher than what it should be. But otherwise, it's not bad. So we're just going to change it to 5.5. And that way it'll overlap our tile set a bit, but that's okay. And now what we're going to do is elif was on ground is equal to false, and on ground is equal to true. Then we're going to copy this and paste it. So if we're going to change this true to a false, now we should get some dust when we land. Yeah, so we've got greatly over exaggerated dust. In fact, I'll probably change this animation. I'll change the sprite to be smaller, but this video will have the original one, but the one on GitHub will be a better one. So then the last thing we're gonna do is add in Coyote Time. Coyote Time is a nickname for what has become fairly popular in platformers, and that's just having it so that when you fall off of the edge of something, so when you're not on the ground, there's a short window of when you can still jump. And then this just makes it a lot better to play because it feels like you've got better timing when Coyote Time is in a game. And we're also going to make it that if you've recently pressed the spacebar, then you will jump as well. So if you're right about to hit the ground, you press the spacebar and it's like a frame before you hit the ground. It's not going to just do nothing once you hit the ground. The next frame, you're going to jump. So I'm going to rename this timer to Coyote Time. I'm going to set it to 1 shot, and we'll have it full as 1 for now, just to make it really easy to tell whether it's working or not. I don't think we'll need to connect it to a player yet, actually. And what we're gonna do on update jumping, we're gonna, oh wait, first actually let's just put it in our timers onReady variables. So onReady var coyote time is equal to money.coyote time. So we're gonna say, or we're gonna just, so we're gonna move this jump into another if statement. I'm gonna say, or coyote time dot is stopped is equal to false. Actually, yeah, we gotta move this back here. And now we gotta do that whenever we leave the ground, we're gonna start Coyote Time. And I'm gonna say if jump res times is smaller than 1, actually 2, no, we'll say 1, then what we're gonna want to do is Coyote Time dot start, and we're gonna move this not onto our was on ground is equal to false and on ground is equal to 2, but into our was on ground is equal to true and our on ground is equal to false. So now if we run the game, jump up here, press, you'll see that we jump, even though it's quite a bit afterwards. So now we can just change that into 0.1, and now you'll hardly be able to tell that there's a Coyote Time even there. I think it would be best if we just, you can just go ahead and delete this jump dust, and instead on the jump sprite we're going to put in the land dust, because I don't think the jump dust looks particularly good. Yeah, it just looks a lot better with it there being less. So then we can just go into here and delete all of this, actually. In fact, we can get rid of this script. We're going to go into our scenes and effects folder, and we'll delete the jump land dust script from there. And then now we can just delete our land dust animation and set our jump dust to autoplay. Delete our land dust sprite. and we're going to need to go into the player and get rid of this creation function call. Oh, wait. Yeah, so I think that's just a lot better for the dust. And also we got Coyote Time working, so now we're gonna add another timer, and we're gonna call this jump recently pressed time. Set its staging to 0.1. And then I'm gonna indent. When is our update jumping called? Okay, just when we're in the basic state, that's good. So if input dot is action just pressed, jump, and then we're gonna go. Wait, we gotta declare the timer, sorry. So then on ready bar jump recently pressed time money jump recently pressed time. Then we'll go jump recently pressed time dot start. Then here we'll do or jump recently pressed time dot is stopped is equal to false. And we'll just change our jump recently pressed time to 1 just to make sure that it works. So we jump, click spacebar, and yeah. In fact, we jump twice sometimes because it takes less than a second for us to hit the ground. So we'll change this back to 0.1 and launch it. It seems to work pretty good. But something else I want to do, just because the dust was overlapping right there, we're going to say for our land dust and jump recently pressed time dot is stopped. And we're also going to go and Coyote Time that is stopped over here, and this should make it that our dust isn't quite as weird. So if we spam the spacebar, we only get one dust jumping about half the time, which is decent, and then we should be able to jump without. Oh. Well, that's, I don't know what caused that. We'll have to get in to fix that. Just some quick bug fixing. The reason why we were jumping off really high sometimes when we jumped off the edges is because we click the jump button and we get the jump rise times, but then jump recently pressed is equal to true and Coyote Time is equal to true, so then we're resetting jump rise times for every time to 5 for the next 0.1 seconds. So this gets called a lot more. So what we're gonna do is if jump rise times is smaller than 1, then jump rise times is equal to 5. And now we don't get this jumping off an edge with all that extra motion. Then something else you'll notice is if we just walk off the edge, there's also jump dust being created there, and that's because was on ground is equal to true and on ground is equal to false. So we're adding this stuff in, and it shouldn't work since Coyote Time dot is stopped is part of it, but it is. So what we're gonna do is we're going to create a new variable with our did jump is equal to false. Then what we're going to do is in our update on ground, if whenever on ground is equal to true, did jump is equal to false, and in update jumping, whenever this gets called, we say did jump is equal to true. And now in here, I'm going to check as well, and did jump is equal to true. So now we run it. If we walk off the edge, there's nothing. If we jump and then land, there's still something. But then what happens is if we run the game again, oh sorry, another breakpoint, then we're not going to get Coyote Time anymore. And in order to fix this, what we need to do is just move our did jump downwards, and we're gonna push all of this forwards, add a colon in here. So now only the dust will play if the jump is equal to true, but we can still use Coyote Time. And we're jumping off the edge again, which is weird. Thought we had that fixed. I'll say also and did jump is equal to false here. See what happens. Doesn't appear like we're getting that crazy motion anymore. So that's the bugs fixed. That is all there is for refining the player movement. So I hope you enjoyed this. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more. And have a good day.